I recently broke out my pedalboard and amp rig for the first time in what feels like years, and there was definitely some magic to it. I think it sounds perfect, which got me wondering, how close can we get to that tone in the Helix? To really nail this tone match, we're gonna have to capture those core elements that make my pedalboard and amp sound so great. First, we'll need to get that warm yet clear edge of breakup amp tone I got with my Immix 11. Second, we'll need to get 2 stages of overdrive, one more transparent, kind of like the Belle Starr, and then one a little dirtier like the Moonshine. Third, we'll need a modulated delay sound like what I got in the Timeline. Fourth, we'll need 2 stages of verb, one more usable that I could just kind of leave on for whatever I'm playing, and another a big modulated cloud style reverb. All right, we're gonna start from 0 and build this preset piece by piece and see how close we can get. Like with anything guitar, the tone starts with the amp. Okay, some of you are gonna be like, tone starts with the fingers. Okay, after the fingers, the tone starts with the amp. This is always the hardest part of the process, honestly, so we'll see how long it takes me. My amp is definitely an AC style, but I feel like it's got a little bit of that Fender vibe in it, or maybe that's just the way I dial it in. I think I'm just gonna go through different AC style amps and different Fender amps and see what ends up being the closest. If you've never gone through this process of tone matching, it is a freaking nightmare because you're just constantly moving things like, you know, 0.1 here, 0.2 here, and back and forth, back and forth. Like, it's definitely a tiring process, but it is rewarding when you feel like you really nail it. That's close. I ended up going with one of the Fender style amps. I think it's a little bit closer than the AC30s in here to my Immix. Part of the foundation for me, at least with how I use this pedal, is compression. There wasn't just that one compressor that really spoke to me, but they were all pretty good, so I just ended up going with this. Now we're on to the fun stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the hard one and see what we can get for the Belle Starr. I ended up whittling it down to 3 different overdrives. The challenge here is they don't have like a Belle Starr emulation in here, so I really was doing approximations. I'm driving myself crazy right now. I do like what I ended up with, but I'm curious to see how it sounds in context. It just seems like so much less gain than what I normally use, but I don't know. It seems right to my ears, but you know, maybe when we watch this back, I'll be like, wow, that was totally off. The Moonshine should be a little easier to approximate because that's based off a Tube Screamer, and they have a Tube Screamer in here, so I'm just gonna go with that and see what we get. This sounds dope. The delays in the Helix are awesome, so dialing this in was pretty easy. They have lots of modulated options, which if you've been watching this channel at all, you know that's kind of like my secret sauce, is I throw a lot of modulation on my delay and reverb, so pretty happy with this tone. Kind of like with the delays, the reverbs in the Helix are really, really good. Like, I think they have a ton of different options, especially if you're into that whole like worship guitar thing or ambient guitar playing. I find these reverbs really impressive. And dialing in a sound was pretty easy for me because I have the HX1, so I kind of already did that legwork. I just picked a couple sounds from my different HX1 reverbs I've dialed in and then adjusted them a little bit here to make them work better. But I mean, for the most part, I was able to just copy and paste those settings over and it was there. Let's take a listen and see how we did. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the amp and compression, since those 2 things I pretty much leave on at all times anyway. They're kind of like one unit. So that one definitely needs some work. It's still a little digi sounding. I think it's something about the high end. Like there's a more open, airy sound to the real amp, and then the mids seem maybe more full. I don't know. I'm gonna have to play around with that one and see what we can get. Now let's move on. We'll do the Belle Starr next. That one I think is actually very close. We've definitely got the character of the Belle Starr. The main difference we're hearing tonally, I think, is from the amp, but I think we really did nail that sort of transparent sound and the right amount of gain. It's just gonna kind of come back to, can we get the amp a little bit closer? Let's try out the Moonshine. Okay, so that one didn't sound as good as I thought it was, but I think it really is the amp again, to be honest. Like, I think the amp is so much of the foundation of the tone. If that's off, then the whole thing's off. But I think the effect itself is probably pretty similar if we can get the amp closer. You kind of get the idea here, but let's go ahead and hear it with those ambient effects too, and just see. My guess is it's probably gonna be the same story. That one sounded good to me. I think we really did nail the cloud sound. I mean, I guess I kind of nailed it before. I'm really just adjusting my HX1 settings just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and get back into this and see how close we can get it. Wish me luck. Not gonna lie, I was super disappointed with the results of the first test. I was really loving the sounds as I was dialing them in, but then in comparison, they just fell short. Well, maybe I should say that the amp fell short, but the effects were pretty good. When in doubt, start with the source material. I just ran a match EQ on it, and as expected, there's more low end and a lot less of the really high highs in the actual amp. That means we'll probably have to do some EQ work, and I may need to play with the cab a little bit, and maybe this isn't the right amp. Maybe I need to go back to that, but I'm gonna go ahead and experiment and see what sounds best. After another hour or so of experimenting, I ended up changing the amp I was using, adjusting the cab settings, and applying some corrective EQ based on the differences I was seeing in the match EQ. That's way better. I don't know what I was thinking before. Once the amp was in a good place, I went through and adjusted each of the effects you heard earlier accordingly, and I was able to add in a few more goodies, including polycapo, fuzz, chorus, vibrato, and tremolo. For a final touch, I moved a few of these time-based effects post-amp and made them stereo to give us a little more of an expansive sound. Well, I feel much better about that. I think that sounds really, really awesome. Now, is it one for one? No, but it's really, really close, and I think being able to make those effects really stereo and wide has maybe kind of covered up some of that difference, but I'll let you hear it for yourself. I think this preset sounds great, and I was rehearsing for church with it, and I honestly felt joy in a way that I haven't experienced playing guitar in a while. I think a lot of it is just the songs they're playing are really, really good, and you know, they really resonate with me, but also these wet effects, specifically that really expansive modulated reverb and the delay, feels so good. So I'm really excited to try this out tomorrow and see how it feels in a live context. Good morning, everyone. It is like 6:25 a.m.-ish, and we're about to make the trek. This church is a little far away, but you know, it's worth it. It's always a good time. I still don't have a case for the Helix, so this is my case. Yeah, I just wrapped it in a beach towel, so hopefully it's all right. I got to church, plugged in the Helix, and it sounded great. The tones translated and felt pretty much the same as when I was practicing with them at home. I'm not set up to do those IEM mix videos at the moment, so you'll have to use your imagination with this B-roll. But again, I thought it was awesome. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because it's funny to see this Helix in a beach towel behind me. But we just finished up the services here, and it was so much fun. I think the set was really good. I enjoyed the parts I was playing, and you know, the people I was playing with. It's always a great time here. I have to say, I am so impressed with the Helix. I was actually telling my wife this last night, and I confirm it again because I feel the same, but this is the closest I've ever gotten a modeler to sound to my pedals and amps. And I think that's in large part to do with how good the effects in the Helix are. They are really like top notch, especially those delays and reverb. They sound so wide and expansive, and the modulation on them is really good. Like, I don't know, I had a lot of fun playing on the Helix, to be honest with you. And it's funny because I think in the early years of the Helix, I was kind of a hater on it. I was just like, no, that's not good. And now here I am 10 years later, and I'm like, this is amazing. So I was wrong. I talked with the front of house guy about it, and he said he thought it sounded great and that it was bright and clear and it cut through well and it sounded big. So, you know, that's the goal, right? Funny story. So we were playing a song at the end of the service that I needed to be in drop D tuning for, and I'm not in drop D for any other song, and we started the set with the song Praise by Elevation Worship, and I didn't realize I was still in drop D, and so I played what should have been a G, but because I'm in drop D, it was an F, so I played an F through the whole first verse, because I couldn't hear myself when I palm mute in my in-ears, so I had no idea. And so yeah, there was just a nice big old G over F chord going on through that whole first set. And then here's the really funny part is we ended up cutting the last song that I needed to be in drop D tuning for mid-set. So we didn't even play it. I didn't even need to be in drop D to begin with. Anyway, I'm sure some of you have been there. But otherwise, it was a really good weekend. I had a lot of fun. I think these tones are awesome. If you want to try them out for yourself, I'm going to put a link to them in the description so you can check that out. I'm going to do a more thorough breakdown of this preset in a future video. I'm not sure if that'll be next week or in a couple weeks, but be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video today, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll catch you next time.